Welcome to Okaloosa Eye on Crime, and we're going to start off this month with a cold case that we're hoping some heat can be brought on if somebody out there has got some information on it.
That's right. We're going to get right to it. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is still searching for leads in a 1973 homicide. Back on October 5th of that year, two people in a white Chevrolet pickup truck drove up to a mobile home located at 66 Brenda Lane out in Mariester just after 11:30 at night. Now, the passenger got out, went inside. About 5 minutes later, shots were heard. The truck sped off at a high rate of speed with the lights off. Now, the next day, Diane Lewis found the body of her estranged husband, Merle Lewis, on the floor inside the trailer. He'd been shot at close range, and a gun was found near his body. Now, an artist did a rendering of the person described as the man who had entered the night before. And since that time, there have been no strong leads. So anybody that may have information about this cold case homicide, please give us a call, no matter what piece of information you think that is. You just never know what might help, break a case.
Yeah, you see cold cases getting solved a lot, so there's still hope for that. Moving over to where the Walton County Sheriff's Office is still trying to identify the truck seen in this video, and that's in reference to a theft that took place on County Highway 183 North into Phoenix Springs back on August 21st. The vehicle appears to be a 2014 to 2018 Chevrolet Silverado, and it's a four-door 4x4 with a blue partial tag of 7716. In the bed of the truck was a teal Cummins box, and the man is described as white, in his 40s, balding with a possible goatee. He was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, dark shorts to the knee, and glasses. So if that rings a bell and you have any information, please contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
Another case out of Walton County, and that's the Walton County Sheriff's Office is trying to identify the subject seen in this video who is believed to be involved in a string of vehicle burglaries that occurred on the morning of November 9th up into Phoenix Springs. Now, if you recognize the individual's outfit, his mannerisms, or characteristics, of course, you can contact the Walton County Sheriff's Office, or you can contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers anonymously. And also, as we do every month, we'll remind you to make sure your doors are locked.
For sure. Moving now over to a case that involves a hit and run from 2002, that is. August, in fact, was 19 years since the death of Michelle Shelley Metters, and the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is still hoping someone out there might provide some info which will solve the case. 15-year-old Shelley was one of three girls standing on the eastbound sidewalk of U.S. Highway 98 on our Emerald Coast Parkway, as some people call it, in Destin, near the Big Kahuna's Water Park, and this was on August 10th, 2002. A vehicle struck two of the girls as they stood on the sidewalk and then continued eastbound without the driver stopping, calling, and or rendering any sort of aid. 15-year-old Tiffany Logsden received serious injuries as a result, and Shelley Metters was killed after being struck. So this case is still open and so far unsolved. I'll keep hoping that the case will have some sort of lead that will bring closure to the family. So if 2 decades after this has happened, you have any information that might help with the case of Shelley Metters, please contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and Fort Walton Beach Police Department recently gathered with church organizations, nonprofits, and the Sylvania Heights community to enhance community relations and cooperation during an event featuring food, music, and fun.
Yes, this is all part of Sheriff Eric Aiden's goal of reaching out across Okaloosa County communities, trying to strengthen the bonds between law enforcement and the citizens.
Jump on it, and stop. We welcome you to the Sylvania Heights community to show us that you are here to serve and protect us.
I wanted to just come down here and get to have some one-on-one time with the community down here. Pastor Tommy Walker was gracious enough to host this event. I saw him one day when I was actually driving to Walmart, saw him out here in the parking lot working at his church, and I pulled up here and started talking to him about becoming a member of our Citizen Advisory Board. He was willing to do that, and on the heels of that, I looked at the back of the church and thought about all the space back there and said, hey, you want to do a cookout or something here sometime? Because that was kind of really what was on my mind, is to have, who doesn't want to come have some good food? I said, hey, we can fry some fish, cook some hamburgers, and he said, man, don't threaten me. He goes, I'll stay on you about that. Well, unfortunately with COVID, we had to put that on hold. thank the Lord we were able to put this back on our calendar before the end of the year, because I would have really been upset not to be able to have this. This is one of the most important things to me, and it's been a great turnout. If hamburgers and hot dogs are a sign of the success of this event, we've cooked over 400, and we have fed a lot of people that have come out.
Hey, now walk it up. Come on. How you doing out there?
Oh, boy.
Now, what is he trained for?
He is trained for patrol certification and narcotics, so he like tracks people, does building searches, evidence searches.
It's a long way up.
Oh, y'all like that, so I'm gonna give you. Well, I'm here today to share with you that the fact that all relationships require investment and participation and work. And that's one of the reasons we're here today. We think so much of you. We want to partner with you to show you what we're all about, how we can be there for you, and that you can be there for us.
The word community is an interesting word. I look at it, and I don't know if this is proper or not, as come in unity. So community is come in unity.
Lord, we ask that you bless this relationship. Touch our sheriff, touch our chief police, oh merciful Father. Lord, touch the officers, touch our community, oh Lord, that we might reduce crime.
I just want to thank the community for their belief in law enforcement and public safety here. But before I became the sheriff,
And now we're going to go down our first list of fugitives we're hoping maybe you can help law enforcement catch. We want to remind you they are wanted as of today's taping date, December 10th, 2021. We're going to start out with a new face to the show, and that's Jesse Jeremiah Gainey. He's 25. He's wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender.
Up next is Ann Margaret Mary Marsh, and she's wanted for failure to appear for theft and elderly abuse, last known to live on Madeline's Path in Fort Walton Beach.
Another new face this month, even though we don't have a photo, is Jeffrey Wade Boone. He's a 32-year-old white male, and he's wanted for sexual battery on a child under 12.
Moving to Robert Allen McEwen, he's wanted for felony possession of a controlled substance and use of a two-way communication device to facilitate a felony. His last known address was on Hawthorne Circle in Fort Walton Beach.
Tanya Denise Curry, who was last known to live on Colonial Drive in Fort Walton Beach, she's wanted for sale of cocaine.
David McLeod was last known to live on 8th Avenue in Shalimar, and he's wanted for VOP for traveling to meet after use of a computer to lure a child.
And we've got some good news to report, and that is Shailene Nicole Matthews has been located since our last show.
Still trying to find Donald Joe Mitchell. Mitchell's wanted for DUI and driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked, and his last known address was in Navarre.
Another one we don't have a photo of, but 39-year-old Andrea Arzel Mundine, 39-year-old black male, he's being sought for domestic violence battery by strangulation.
Happy to say, however, that Dennis Drake Howe Henderson has been located thanks to a tip.
But we're still looking for Tad Keith Bowers. He's wanted for violation of probation on the original charge of child neglect.
Robert Wayne Maxwell is wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for threats, extortion, and cyber stalking.
Another one we can remove from the show is Tiffany Nicole Key.
Still trying to track down Clifton Ray Edwards, who's 49 years old. He's wanted for felony VOP for carrying a concealed weapon.
Deputies are still searching for 51-year-old Angela Dawn Tripp for failure to appear for exploitation of the elderly, last known to live on Crown Creek Circle up in Crestview.
And contact Crime Stoppers if you have any info on the whereabouts of Scott Daniel Sconyers. Sconyers is wanted for VOP, DUI, and fleeing and eluding. Last known address was in Destin.
30-year-old Anthony Michael Frodely, he's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, as well as providing false information to a pawnbroker, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
We don't have a photo, but you might know this name, Brandon Dalton West. He is wanted for sexual assault, and he's 30 years old.
38-year-old Prince Martel Purse, who was last known to live on Maywin Avenue in Shalimar, he's wanted for violation of probation for aggravated assault.
Alyssa Victoria Hibberts is next up. She's wanted for VOP for child neglect and possession of cocaine, last known address Pensacola.
We're still looking for 27-year-old Cheyenne Lee Gentry for violation of probation for possession of methamphetamine, last known to live on Oak Terrace Drive up in Crestview.
And James Clinton Brinkley Jr. is 63. He's wanted for violation of probation on a battery charge.
In addition, this month is Tyler Valentine O'Quain. He's 25 years old. He's wanted for felony order revoking bond, last known to live over in Pensacola.
And finally on this list we have David Allen Bobbitt, and Bobbitt is wanted for fraud.
Now, OCSO School Resource Officer Deputy Jeremy Dobkins is making a name for himself with innovative ideas that boost school safety.
There's no doubt about that. You know, one of his latest initiatives involves using color-coded compasses around Mariester Elementary School, and that goes along with color-coded hallways, and that helps make it easier to navigate and quicker for first responders to be able to get to a spot if there's an emergency. He's pretty much hoping that a standardized format of this can be put in other schools. Take a look at what he's come up with.
The dot in the center tells me I'm in the blue hallway, and then it tells me I'm heading westbound, or obviously if I'm in the opposite direction, I'm heading eastbound. What I envisioned was having the ability for like the patrol officer, if they have to respond and they don't know exactly our color-coded systems of our hallways. So having the color of the hallway in the center of the compass, as well as directions to other colors, allows them to navigate the building in the most chaotic situations. If you're going down that hallway, every so many feet, there is another compass indicating your direction of travel, and that you're still in that hallway. They're also placed in front of the camera system, so that way if an incident does occur, dispatch has the ability to observe those cameras. They can also direct the officers or the deputies coming into the actual building in the proper way to come in, because not always is the front entrance the best, not always is the back entrance the best. I simply look at the floor, I know I need to head westbound, and I know what color hallway I need to go, and it's simply look, go, and take care of whatever problems that we need to take care of to keep these kids safe.
And Deputy Dobkins says these compasses are also proving to be pretty good educational tools in the school, because they're helping students to understand compasses, to understand directions and navigation. So a lot of benefits across the board with these innovative ideas he's coming up with. Another one that he had is being shared with the Florida Board of Education's Safe Schools Office. Deputy Dobkins earned a certificate of commendation recently from the Okaloosa County School District. That's for his creation of a QR code that students can use to tap into Fortify Florida's anonymous reporting tool. That means without having to download the actual app.
Now we're going to get right into our second list of fugitives, and we're going to start out with Pasha Ali Turner, who's 37 years old, wanted for burglary with assault or battery, violation of domestic violence injunction, tampering in a felony investigation, as well as other felony charges, last known to live on Hollywood Boulevard in Fort Walton Beach.
And Thomas Edward Allison's last known address was in Destin. He's 62 years old, and he's wanted for failure to appear for aggravated assault on a person 65 or older.
Walton County deputies are still searching for 46-year-old Mark Robert Fitzgerald for grand theft of a person 65 or older, money laundering, as well as organized fraud, last known to live out in Santa Rosa Beach.
John Patrick Sinke is wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender. Last known address was Vital Lane in Fort Walton Beach.
Clayton McCree Copeland, who was last known to live in Destin, he's wanted for violation of probation for providing false information to a pawnbroker and grand theft of a motor vehicle.
Next one involves drugs. Jerry Daniel Beaver is wanted for VOP for possession of methamphetamine, as well as driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked. He was last known to live on Boyce Drive in Shalimar.
38-year-old Coretta LaDawn James, she's being sought for failure to appear for grand theft and fraud, last known to live on Wilson Street in Crestview.
David Richard Abbott's up next. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for resisting arrest without violence and possession of a controlled substance, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
We're still searching for 45-year-old Tyrone Mandrell Frost for violation of probation for the original charge of burglary, last known to live on Greenwood Street in Fort Walton Beach.
And 28-year-old Trelise McLaughlin's wanted for felony VOP for possession of methamphetamine, last known to live on Dredden Circle, that is, in Baker.
Leon Leslie Chandler, 47 years old. He's wanted for violation of probation for driving while license suspended or revoked. and possession of a weapon or ammo by a convicted felon, last known to live on Ashley Lane in Fort Walton Beach.
Certainly would be good if law enforcement could catch up with Brian Calenzuela Castile, 26 years old. He's wanted for failure to appear for lewd behavior on a victim 12 to 14, last known to live on Tyner Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Next up is 35-year-old Blake Elliott Gundred. He's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, as well as providing false information to a pawnbroker.
We don't have a picture available for Edward Delgado, but he's a 43-year-old white male who's wanted for felony home invasion, robbery, battery, grand theft, and grand theft of a motor vehicle.
Wrapping up this second list is Jose Francisco Cabrera Yawardo. He's 18 years old. He's wanted for failure to appear for lewd behavior with a victim aged 12 to 16, last known to live on Baker Avenue in Fort Walton Beach. Now go online and look up holiday scams, and you're quick to see that con men and women love to take advantage of the holidays to exploit and scam shoppers. Now being aware is the best first step toward prevention. Now on this OCSO Scam Spotters Edition, common online holiday scams and prevention tips are in the spotlight.
With the holiday season approaching, we're all getting packages delivered to our house, so the concern is people taking our packages off the front porch. So I know that with the advent of all these cameras, Ring cameras, things like that, that helps us, but we also need to be looking out for one another, and to, if you're getting a package in the mail and you have neighbors that you trust, ask them to take the package inside for you. And if you do see suspicious people wander around a neighborhood, please call the sheriff's office, because we want to get to know these people.
Yeah, and it actually, unfortunately, has become more and more common over the last few years. So, not just people wandering around, but maybe even people driving around too, slowly scoping out stuff.
Or following the UPS
or following the UPS truck or FedEx truck.
Yeah, FedEx, one of the delivery companies.
So if you see any of those things, definitely call the sheriff's office. If you see anything on your camera, make sure you share that with law enforcement too.
Have an alert set on your phone or on your social media or something that lets you know, hey, I had a package delivered. So at least at that point, when you get home, you should find a package.
You might want to look at maybe having your packages delivered to work or another location.
Everybody gets a ton of packages or orders stuff on Amazon, so we do expect to get some alerts saying, hey, you've just ordered something. However, if you get one that says, you just thank you for your order from Amazon, or thank you from your order from Google or Microsoft, don't click on it unless you just bought something within the last couple minutes, because those are scam sites. You click on those, you're likely to get malware, or it's going to take you to another scammer.
Another scammer somewhere else who's going to steal your identity, take your information as quickly as possible.
Yes, and then that is the case. It's not just your email you'll get these, you'll also get them on text messages. So be careful of both those media. Yeah.
One of the other scams that we've been talking about that we're kind of expecting to see this year is with popular items not being able to be found, as we've already seen some of the stuff that's cropping up, some stuff that's harder to find, maybe on some fraudulent websites, or the item itself is even fraudulent. You think you're buying one thing and you're buying the high dollar item, and then you receive it and it's obviously a huge knockoff.
Heading back over to Fugitives, we've got Anjali Rochelle Johnson up first on this list, 37 years old, wanted for aggravated battery, and last known to live on Mixon Road in Defuniak Springs.
This one's been on the show for a while. It's 39-year-old William George Riding Jr. He's wanted for counterfeiting.
Trying to find Michelle Renee Riding. Riding's wanted for felony violation of probation.
No photo for Christine Chadwick, but she's wanted for cruelty to animal, as well as resisting arrest without violence.
Aja Marie Nathan is wanted for failure to appear for vehicle theft. Nathan's last known address was in Fort Walton Beach.
29-year-old Reginald Dwayne Muse. He's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, burglary, and aggravated stalking.
Any information would be appreciated for Anthony Charles Brush. Brush is wanted for felony exploitation of the elderly or disabled. Last known address, Denton Boulevard in Fort Walton.
Okaloosa deputies are still searching for 28-year-old Mary Elizabeth Gibson. She's being sought for violation of probation for leaving the scene of a crash with injuries, last known to live on Silva Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
The Walton County Sheriff's Office is searching for Eric Markel Clyburn. He's wanted for felony failure to appear and last known to live over in Santa Rosa Beach.
Back to Okaloosa County, 37-year-old Timothy James Howard. He's wanted for larceny, resisting an officer in the recovery of stolen property, as well as failure to appear for fraud, last known to live on Bearhead Road up in Defuniak Springs.
Remember the name James Lee Burnett? We don't have a photo available, but he is a 68-year-old black male who's wanted for felony failure to appear for aggravated battery, last known to live on Hollywood Boulevard in Fort Walton Beach.
Next up is 52-year-old George Monroe Emmerich II. He's being sought for violation of probation for domestic violence, strangulation, and aggravated battery.
Somebody out there knows where to find Alexis Wilmer Mondragon. He's 38 years old, wanted by the OCSO for sexual battery, sexual offenses against a child, and lewd and lascivious molestation. Last known to live on Spencer Drive in Fort Walton Beach, but that was a ways back.
Yeah, we're not giving up on that one, though. Next up is 28-year-old Daniel Lewis Davis. He's wanted for violation of probation on the original charge of burglary, last known to live up in Crestview.
Starting to wind down now, we've gotten to Roderick James Rutterson Jr. Rutterson's wanted for possession of synthetic narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school and failure to appear on a traffic charge.
And finally, 34-year-old Samuel Edward Thomas III. He's wanted for violation of probation on the original charges of providing false information to a pawnbroker, false imprisonment, as well as grand theft, last known to live in Shalimar.
I'm going to shift gears here for just a minute because we've got some really cool video. Members of the OCSO dive team, they train monthly, and they're looking at searching for evidence and recovering evidence, and then taking all their training challenges out into the real world, where their cases can depend on what they find and how it's retrieved and handled. So they've got all kinds of challenges in the local environments.
That's right, and in October they headed north for training exercises at the bottom of North Santa Rosa County Lake.
These videos are of dive training that we had in October 2021, showing some of the different types of searches and evidence recovery that we train for and use. This particular search that Lieutenant Jason Fulgham is starting is an arc search. We have a dive team member on a dock holding the other end of the line that you see in the lieutenant's left hand as he's searching through vegetation, mud, algae, a little bit of muck. It gets deeper where he's searching. In this particular scenario, the suspect allegedly threw a shotgun off the end of the dock, and the lieutenant is searching for that. If we had very good visibility, it would be easy. In this case, you can see the vegetation and muck is getting to be about 2 feet deep. The diver on shore is monitoring his position and will tell him when to turn. We do this through line pulls, or we have underwater communications. In this particular case, we were training with line pulls. So this type of search with this line on the bottom, it's got weights on either end, is a jackstay search. During this jackstay search, this diver has found what may be evidence, a knife. We recover items like this in the water in which we found it. So in this case, you see him place the knife into a watertight container. So this is another view of a jackstay. In this case, the diver on the bottom of the screen is using the fingertips to elbow across the bottom search pattern. The diver on the top is using a metal detector. So the jackstays have a heavy weight at either end. It's just a long line. You'll see the diver with the metal detector picks up the weight and he moves it over. And that movement distance is based on the visibility and how far they want to move it in any given time. And now they'll do the same thing heading back down the jackstay. When they get to the other end, they'll move it in the same direction and they'll keep going. And by using this method, they can methodically search an area as large as it needs to be. One of the most somber things we do on the dive team is recover victims from beneath the surface, whether it be from an accident, a crime, a drowning. This is one of the more difficult things that we do. When we find a victim, or if we find evidence that we're not going to immediately recover, we mark the victim or the evidence with a floating buoy. That way, no matter what happens with visibility, diver orientation, we have the ability to immediately go back to the victim or the evidence. That's why it's very important to mark the place, the victim, the evidence quickly.
Now, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office teams up each year with Emerald Coast Hospice to make sure patients know they're on our Christmas radar by providing each with a small hand-decorated Christmas tree. Now, since it started 14 years ago with 25 trees, it's now grown to 358 trees this year, with several schools getting their creative vibe on to help out as well.
You know, it's gotten so big it means that hospice patients all the way over to Panama City are going to be able to brighten their rooms with this, what we think is pretty tangible tree symbolization of our Christmas spirit. Now, we want you to check out the Christmas forest and the winners in the individual team and kids categories. And we also obviously want to give a big shout out to everyone who took part in this to bring some other folks in our area some joy.